Hello there. And yes, if you're watching on YouTube, this is a much different backdrop. I've gone home gone back to, where I grew up, the house I grew up in. At least I'm back at my mom's house for the next week or two. Just, been dealing with some stuff back at the house in Richmond. I'm not going to really get into that. And yes, it has been a long time since I have talked with you all. We're going to get all into that to start the show today. We're also going to get into the Penguins' only game in the Prospect Challenge, a 6-4 win for the Penguins. We're going to get into who stood out, who didn't do enough, all that kind of jazz. Also going to get into Sonny Milano's PTO today with the Calgary Flames and why I think that was a missed opportunity for the Penguins. And we're also going to get into some more Robo Penguin talk because Rob Rossi just a couple of days ago confirmed my scoop that I had on the show a few weeks ago when I was hearing that it was going to be the Robo Penguin that was going to be the reverse retro jersey. But maybe we'll sprinkle in some other stuff as well. So that's all coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter. It has been a week here, people. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. We're back to dailies. We've made it through the off season. We're now 3.5 weeks away until the start of the NHL regular season. Believe it or not, Jens, 3.5 weeks until the 2022-2023 NHL regular season begins. And I'm sure some of you all wondering, where the heck have I been? I've only basically done 3 episodes in the last 2 weeks. Yeah, I know that's half of what you guys should be expecting of me. You should have about 6 episodes from me by now. So obviously I was in Aruba from the 6th to the 11th, right? Did 2 episodes, was going to do another, and wasn't really much to talk about on the other one, whatever. So came back, was supposed to do episodes, you all know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday last week. So I record on Tuesday, and I kind of started to feel sick a little bit. I'm like, okay, something's scratching in my throat. Sure enough, Wednesday, I'm working, 2, 3, 4 o'clock comes, and I start getting chills. I'm feeling really cold, and I'm like, all right, something's up. So go to CVS, go get a couple COVID tests. And sure enough, I test positive for COVID. It's the first time I've had it. Went 2.5 years without getting it. I'm triple vaxxed. I did not know if I was ever going to get it. And it kicked my butt last Wednesday. I had like a 104 fever, nausea, chills. I went to bed at like 7 o'clock. Thursday felt a little bit better, but took off work. And then Friday was feeling better, but still I wasn't good enough to record an episode. I wanted to make sure I was, mostly back to 100%. I still have a little bit of congestion. I still have a little bit of a sore throat. My voice isn't back to where I want it to be, but I'm back now, and that's all that matters. So again, the last couple of weeks, I really apologize for lack of content, but that's changing now. We're back to daily episodes. I'm gonna have an episode for you all every day this week and every day moving forward with regard to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Let's start with the Prospect Challenge. The Penguins only played 1 game. Some other teams played 2, 3 games, but the Penguins, they played the Boston Bruins. They're rookies. At least they played it up at the Harbor Center in Buffalo. And the Penguins, they struck quick. It was a 3-0 lead right out of the gate. Sam Poulin, Philip Hollander, and Valtteri Puustinen, I believe, all had goals to open up the scoring. I believe that actually the Penguins were even up 4-0. And when Philip Hollander got his second goal of the day, that's when the Bruins, they battled back to tie the game at 4-4. And then the Penguins were able to make it 5-4 and then 6-4 to win the game. I wasn't following it as much on Sunday just because I was watching the Steelers game. I think most of Pittsburgh was watching the Steelers game on Sunday. I don't think a lot of you guys were probably watching that game up in Buffalo or finding a stream for or something like that. But I was able to go back, read up on Taylor Haase and Danny Shire's coverage on DK Pittsburgh Sports, and read a couple of other sites, and it definitely sounds like to me that Hollander, Puustinen, and Poulin stole the show. And, those three are three of their best young players, and they're going to potentially have to try to show out in camp to maybe try to win a roster spot. I mean, it's highly unlikely, I think, that any of the three make the team out of camp, but, who knows? There's training camp, surprises all the time. I think also Nathan Legare, he also had a really strong game in that, from what I've read, from the highlights I think that Taylor posted and all that. So, it's good to see, honestly, like the four main prospects in the Penguin system, have good games, just because, at times they haven't been noticeable, but, you're playing against, some top, you're playing against top prospects, especially the Bruins. They usually have a pretty decent system. And the fact that they played well, that's good in my eyes. Also, it's massive to me. Great to see Philip Lindgren back on the ice. He's been out. I believe it was 10 months with like a leg, ankle injury, something like that. He was really affected by it. He came in, sounds like made a lot of nice saves before he exited the game and was replaced. But, I think he's going to, need to have a big year this year down in Wilkes-Barre. There were people talking about how he could be like the backup to Tristan Jarry at some point. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Someone like Lindbergh, you take a flyer on and you hope that maybe he pans out to something more than, I don't know, I guess like a fringe NHL backup. But, he did have really good college numbers, and, in Wilkes-Barre, he was playing fine, excuse me, until he got hurt. So I do want to see how he can be when healthy this year. And I thought yesterday's game was a pretty good start in that category, at least in my opinion. And yes, just real quickly here, for those that are watching on YouTube, yes, the mop is gone. I went and got it trimmed today. It's a new season. Beard's gone. There's no playoffs. So yeah, there'll be another time where the mop will come back and everyone will be freaking out about it and all that other stuff. But it is gone right now. Again, going back to the Penguins talk, that mainly wraps up, my thoughts on the prospect game yesterday. Rookie camp, I believe, is still going just for a little bit longer. Training camp is set to open on Thursday of this week. Hallelujah. First day of autumn. The temperatures are starting to get cooler in the mornings. You're starting to not hear those stupid bugs as much in the night, especially crickets. I hate those bugs. Just can't stand it. I love summer as a whole. Hate the bugs that come with them. I wish they could just be eradicated from this planet. To be honest, if that makes me sound like an ass, then you know what? So what? But I'm fired up. This is a great time, to be a hockey fan. We're 3.5 weeks away. There's going to be the training camp. Even though there's not a lot of intriguing storylines, it should still be a lot of fun. Remember, the practices will be held at the UPMC Sports Complex. Practice should be free and open to the public. Hopefully, some of you all will go. And, if you want to send me some photos, send me some videos, send me your thoughts even, I'll include that on the show and all that jazz. So, again, that wraps up this first segment with, talking about the Penguins Prospect Challenge and how it was mainly just, the big four that stood out plus Philip Lindbergh, in my opinion. I think Shevkovsky had a decent game. Kyle Olsen was on the third line. Jonathan Gruden was centering that line. Ty Glover was also in the lineup. Josh Maniscalco, he's a player that, I've always been intrigued by, but I don't think he's ever going to be an NHL defenseman. Jack St. Ivy was playing. Remember, he just signed an entry-level deal with the Penguins over the summer. Chris Ortiz, Isaac Bellevue, Colin Sawyer, just some of the other names that were participating in this. And yes, going back to Puustin just real quick, he has a clapper of a slap shot. I was able to see a video of the goal that he had, and wow, what a rip that was. He can fire the puck. That's, one of the strong points of his game is his shot. I like his skating too, but his shot, it's something you can't teach. I'll say that. I'm not going to sit here and say it's like an Alex Ovechkin kind of shot or something like that, but that kind of shot that gets you into the NHL. And there's a chance that, maybe he'll be playing more than one game for the Penguins this year. You'll have to see. Now, before we get to our next segment, which will be about the Robo Penguin, Actually, here's a cool little thing for you all for watching on YouTube. Look at that, BetOnline. So let's get right into that. It is your number one source for all of your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. You can find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's open week games. BetOnline is also your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. It's the fastest, easiest way to check in on all of your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, and boxing and golf. You can head to the website or use your phone to learn more about the trends in action. That has BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at @Penguins. I am going to take a sip of water here because I can feel my mouth is just, I'm still recovering a little bit. All right, that is much better. So let's get into the second segment here, and that is, of course, the Robo Penguin. So Rob Rossi wrote a story just a few days ago, and he said, according to sources, the Penguins' 2022-2023 reverse retro jersey is going to feature the 1990s Robo Penguin logo. Thank you for the scoop, Rob. I'm glad you were able to confirm it. No, I'm mainly just playing, but I'm glad that, that scoop that I got from someone that I know and trust was reliable. Again, it's not often that I get these scoops. I will never pretend to be Elliot Friedman. I do not have all these connections, but when I hear something from someone I trust, I do pass it on, and I'm glad that I was able to get out in front of this scoop and, just hear what I was hearing. But Rob writes in his article, he says it will feature the Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr, the retro jerseys. Oh, geez. Reverse retro jersey will feature the logo that Lemieux and Jagr wore together throughout most of the 90s run together, multiple industry sources told The Athletic. It will appear on the front of the jerseys worn by Crosby and Malkin for an unspecified number of games in 2022-2023. The Penguins have also not worn the main logo since 2001-2002. That is just absolutely nuts. And also, it's going to appear on a black jersey with no gradient, the logo of it is. So again, the logo will appear on a black jersey with no gradient. And I'm going to try to share my screen here real quick if I can find the buddy. I'm going to go to Jason's Twitter account because he had a jersey design that showed what the jersey could be. I'm not saying this is what it's going to be. If I can find this here. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share my screen here real quickly. Yes. Here we go. Okay, so you all can see my screen here. Let's go to the Twitter account. So this is what Jason put out. So I'm sure you all can see. This is for the YouTube audience. As you can see, black jersey, the crest is in the middle, and then there's a yellow outline. It kind of looks like a little, if there weren't a penguin there, it would kind of be like a Boston Bruins kind of jersey. But, this is something that I would buy 100 out of 100 times. And again, I did not create this. Jason did not create this. It was posted somewhere. I think it was posted on the Penguins subreddit, to be honest with you all. So if that is the jersey or something related to it, I think that would be pretty nice. I would definitely buy the one, to say the least. This has been a long time coming. I know it's been divisive among fans, some elder fans, as Rob writes. So, they were skeptical of the Robo Penguin and new uniforms that debuted, and, obviously with the failed ownership before Mario Lemieux came in and blah, 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 blah. But, this is a jersey that it's going to sell a lot. And I'm honestly, I would not be surprised if this jersey or another Robo Penguin kind of jersey is worn again in the near future. Remember what they did with the first reverse retro jerseys. Remember they had the Pittsburgh diagonal in white, right? So and they were like, oh, okay, this was mostly, I think, fine by the fan base. So they were like, okay, let's just bring back the original one. So I think with this one, the Penguins, they're going to bring back a reverse retro one, see how it does. And if it does well, which I assume it will, they're going to be like, okay, let's bring back one of the original Robo Penguins that they wore, back in the early 2000s, back in the 90s, something like that. And Rob also writes that they plan to unveil this jersey within a few weeks. So Rob wrote this on September 15th. It's September 19th right now. Probably, sometime in October, probably either right before the season starts or like right as the season starts. They're probably going to announce it. And as Rob writes, the Penguins will wear their current home and road jerseys, which I think are the best in the NHL. Their diagonal Pittsburgh alternate jerseys, the black reverse retro jerseys, and a special jersey for the Winter Classic against the Boston Bruins on January 2nd. There has been no update regarding that. All I've heard, the scoop I have about that jersey is that the Penguin logo is not on it. That's all I have. I don't know what it is. It could be like a Pittsburgh Pirates jersey from way back when. I don't know. Sounds like they have it picked out, but they're not going to announce it probably till later on in the season. Best part about the Robo Penguin coming back is that it had to happen under new ownership. This was never going to happen under Mario Lemieux and Ron Burkle. Mario hated those jerseys. He could not stand them. So there's probably a small part of him right now that's just definitely a bit upset. Geez, to say the least. But exciting times. I'm definitely going to buy one. I assume they'll probably wear them for 10 to 12 games, something like that, if I had to guess. Maybe a little less. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that wraps up the second segment. Coming up in the final segment, we're going to get into Sonny Milano and, how it's ridiculous that he signed a PTO with a team and not a 1-year contract, and what that means for the Penguins. So that's all coming up right after this commercial break. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter, @LO_Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So, word today, basically, it's Monday now, that came out from Elliot Friedman that Sonny Milano is going to be signing a PTO with the Calgary Flames. And it's just like, I don't understand how someone like Sonny Milano, someone who had double-digit goals last season, double-digit assists, had, basically what, like if I can just make sure I'm getting his stats right here. Sorry, just making sure I have everything right. 14 goals, 34 points in 66 games. You are telling me this guy is only getting a PTO from a team and the Penguins couldn't do that? I'm not trying to get fired up about that, but man, that is just free stuff for the Penguins. They should have taken that yesterday. And I know, they're basically right on the cap right now, but you have 3.5 weeks. You do. Geez, sorry. Damn it. I'm just dying over here still a little bit. But you have 3.5 weeks. I mean, you have time to, send a defenseman down, maybe make a defenseman trade, something like that. I think they could have been able to work something out. This is a player that, is good on the third or fourth line. I mean, he's probably best on your third line. And just is coming off the best season, excuse me, of his career. And his underlines were also pretty solid. 52% of the shot attempts with the Ducks when he was on the ice, about 50-50 when it comes to actual goals, 52% of the expected goals, 52% of the scoring chances, and 52% of the high danger chances, and 51% of the high danger goals when he was on the ice. The Ducks had those numbers. All really strong. Someone who can, potentially also jump up in the lineup when needed. Really fast skater, really crafty with the puck. He was always trying to, with the Michigan stuff. Him and Trevor Zegras were just so fun together. And those were the two players that were giving John Tortorella just migraines on ESPN last year. I think it was like during like November or something like that when the Michigan first happened, and that's when Tortorella was like that old man yells at cloud, basically. But it's honestly insane that player is getting a PTO. He should be getting a deal 100 out of 100 times, and I wish the Penguins were able to do that, because the PTO, that's free. You don't have to pay for him. He comes into camp, tries out for you. Obviously he's gonna make the Flames roster. I mean, why wouldn't he? He's coming off basically a 15-goal season. But man, even though the Penguins were up against the cap, I still would have done it. I feel like they could have, been able to make a move or, send someone down or something like that. The teams always find a way to get cap compliant. And I think this would have been no different for the Penguins, at least in my opinion. So definitely think there's maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity there. Would have loved to have him on the team, but I'm sure he'll do great with the Flames. I think they've had a really solid offseason. It takes guts to do what they did. You lose Gaudreau and Kachuk, and you're almost like, oh, let's just basically fold and retire here. But they were like, nope, we're gonna keep going, and we're gonna do what we can to have a winning team for next year. And I think they've done as good of a job as they can, at least in my opinion. I believe that wraps up today's episode for the Locked On Penguins podcast. There's going to be a lot of content to come this week. I'm going to have another episode for you all tomorrow. We're going to start getting into some bold predictions for this season. I definitely have a couple already that I've been thinking about for the last few days. That's going to hopefully be either on tomorrow's episode or Wednesday's episode. All I can tell you all about this new season of Locked On Penguins is this. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, and if you're not listening to the show, you're missing out. We're going to try to hit 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Right now, we're at about 640. I think that's definitely very doable this season. This is already season 4 of the show. This is going to be the best season of the show yet. I have so much fun content planned. It's going to be so much fun to talk about this team on a nightly basis. And there's a chance, Jens, that I could be at the games. And if I do end up moving to Pittsburgh, in December, there's a chance that the show could get credentialed and I could be going to games and, potentially up in the press box with some of the other big boys and maybe even asking some questions to the players or coaches after the games. And I could get some of those audio recordings and play them on the show and all that. So I really do think that, big things could be coming for Locked On Penguins this year. And I can't thank you all enough for sticking with me over the offseason, especially these last couple of weeks. Again, I apologize for the lack of content and with going on my final vacation to getting COVID, and I'm still not fully over it yet, but I'm close to 100%. But I'm back. I'm fully back at this point. I'm not going to skip any more episodes this week. I'm not going to be skipping any more episodes moving forward, either, to say the least. But again, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for sticking with me through the offseason, and welcome back, Penguins hockey. Training camp starts on Thursday. I'll be back with another episode for you all on Tuesday.